Hello, everyone, and welcome to Six Figure Souls Doing Good and Making Money, the weekly podcast highlighting entrepreneurs that have crushed that six-figure ceiling while staying true to their soul's purpose. I am your host, Camille Miller. I am the founder of the Natural Life Business Partnership and pioneer for the Soul Professional Movement. Today, we are introducing Shannon Hernandez, a business growth strategist and founder of the Joyful Business Revolution. Thanks, Shannon, for being a part of our podcast today.
It's going to be so fun. I can feel it. So let's just start here. Okay. We have a mantra in our brand and with our clients, with our community. If it ain't joyful, we ain't doing that shit.
I love it. I love it. I start every single day with, is this going to bring me joy? Like, am I loving this today? And I only do things that I absolutely brings me joy. Just like you teach, but let's start with who you are, what you do, but your background. All right. So this podcast, like I told you before we turned on, was really about people's stories and how they got to the place of breaking that six-figure ceiling, because it's not easy. Right. Yeah. I know a lot of people watch people on social media and they think, oh my gosh, they did that overnight. And there are some people that have a lot of success overnight, but it's really about maintaining it past that big, great month or 2 months that you had. And how do you maintain it? Once you maintain it, how do you scale it? And how do you love every bit of it? Because I think that's the most important thing for me, is teaching people that you can totally live in your lane of joy, which is what I say, and bring your passion and love your work and have your work to be part of your lifestyle, right? You should just grow with that. So I want to start with who you are and who you were before the Joyful Business Revolution.
That might be multiple personalities.
Well, I think we all go through that. So I think that's an important piece of it.
Yes. So thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So who I was before the founder of the Joyful Business Revolution, I was a teacher. I taught 8th grade. They were crazy, hormone-driven, amazing, lively, enraged, walking children.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. Adults. And, in my true nature of go big or go home, which is pretty much what I live, but I do it not through burnout. I decided I had been teaching in Charlotte for 10 years. And then I thought, I need a challenge. So
entrepreneurship.
Not yet. I decided to go do something very few white teachers would do from rural areas. I placed myself into Spanish Harlem.
Wow.
And became an 8th grade teacher in Spanish Harlem. For 5 years, I made it. And then I was like, I got to get out of here.
Wow. That is incredible. Just the move.
Yes.
Like, how did you even choose that?
Well, it's an interesting story. So I grew up precisely at the intersection of a corn and a bean field in Illinois. I'm going to paint this picture for
everybody. My gosh. Okay.
Right? So my spouse loves to say her high school in Brooklyn had more people than my entire hometown. True story.
Okay.
Her high school had 5,000 people. My hometown had 4,000 people. 2/3 of that town was Amish. We were not. So I was already an outsider. Okay. In the middle of a corn and a bean field. My father was the chief of police of the town. So everyone knew all my shit that was going on all the time. You could not hide from anything. And the standard was high to not ruin the family name. We walked a tight rope. There was zero diversity in that town outside of Amish and not Amish. And I knew at the age of 12, this shit was weird. nobody wants to believe me. Like, I call myself the sheep that ran away. A lot of people say they're the black sheep. I don't particularly love that saying, but I was the sheep that ran away from the herd. And I still am like the only like liberal, the only entrepreneur, the only person in my family who doesn't like love Trump. Like, you name it, I did like a freaking 180 and ran fast. So I ran to Charlotte. Now, Charlotte's diverse. It's not that diverse, but it seemed like a place that was a city. It had more than white people there.
I get that.
I could at least start fresh and be somewhere that wasn't a corn and bean field. And so that's where I was. And during that time, I was married before. My first spouse, he had a gambling problem. And before we knew it, we were 40,000 in debt, then 60,000 in debt. I was like, I didn't sign up for this shit. And so I got divorced. I rebuilt my life as a teacher there, moved into my sister's house, stayed in the princess bed of the 2-year-old daughter, like got my feet again. And then I met my current spouse online, and she was from Brooklyn. And so we dated and flew back and forth for a few years. And then I was like, God, New York City, like, this is the scariest thing I could possibly do, growing up from how I grew up to go to New York City and to live there. But also, I'm going to teach there. Like, that is what I decided to do. And I was like, why not? If I'm going to move there, I might as well just go to one of the hardest places. Spanish Harlem is a very hard place to teach in. And I loved every moment. When they just let me close my door and teach, I was the happiest person ever. So that's kind of the story.
Okay. So then you're a teacher in Spanish Harlem. Can I ask what did you teach?
8th grade reading and writing.
Reading and writing. Okay. So from there, what was your transition to entrepreneurship? What was that first, like, okay, I'm out of here?
Yeah. So Hurricane Sandy came up the coast. We never have hurricanes, right? Like, we're too far up. New Jersey, New York City. Hurricane Sandy came up the coast, and I'm like, these news reporters are whack. Like, they blow everything out of proportion. I will be back here tomorrow. I left my lesson plan book, all the papers, everything at the school. And I went back to Brooklyn where we were living. And lo and behold, as anyone knows who lived here, that is not what happened. They were actually right and not blowing things out of proportion. The schools were closed down and used for shelters for the next 10 days. And it was really that week, I call it the gift from Hurricane Sandy. That week was the week that I came out of robot mode. I had no papers to grade. I had no lessons to plan. I was bored as shit because I had basically built my entire life around my career. And I was sitting at my kitchen table, and there was I still have this notebook. There was a line I had written, and I wrote it on a Monday, and I went and read it on a Wednesday. And it said, I deserve to be happy again. Wow. And I was like, what the hell? Like,
powerful.
Why am I not happy? It was such a profound moment. And that was in October. In November, I hired a business coach, and I left in June and resigned and decided my happiness. I didn't know shit about growing a business. I never grown a business. I ran a classroom really well, right? But I didn't know anything about growing a business. But I was like, what am I wanting more than anything? I'm wanting free time, because I didn't have any. That's a lie. Anyone that thinks teachers have free time, it's a big fat lie, right? And I wanted money to be able to travel, not when kids were traveling.
I totally get that. Yes.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And you fast forward now, like 10 years later, I work 3 days a week. I have an amazing team. The whole brand and foundation is built on joy. We help coaches and consultants find their joy, come back to joy, grow joyful businesses and lives that are aligned with their values, give money away to charity, go travel when they want, and just live their best life.
I love that. I absolutely love what you do. So let's just go back. So your first thing, you hired a coach.
Yeah.
You're starting on this road to entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Was your first business becoming a coach? What was the actual first business?
The first business was I was helping people write their website copy. So I was a copy and content
writer, right? Okay.
Yep. And helping them with that. And it was right when blogging was getting popular, and I was helping people understand blog and SEO. And this was something I felt I could really do because I had been teaching reading and writing for so long. So I just transferred that skill over. Yeah.
Awesome. And how long did you do that before? There's still some steps in here. So we're trying to dig down, find them. So you're helping people with your copy. It's just you? Do you have a team?
No.
Okay. So it was just you.
Just me.
And then at what point did you pivot to start to do all that you're doing now with a team and the messaging and the marketing, which now we can kind of see that line?
Yeah. Well, when I left the Department of Education, I was making $70K a year. And I said, gosh, if I could just make $70K a year working for myself, I know I can have this viable business.
Right.
And I did that in about 7 months. Now, it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't joyful. I was under everyone else's deadlines. And the moment that I realized I'm just in another form of like teaching, was the moment that I was on vacation with my laptop open, writing someone's freaking sales page because they waited till the last minute to get it to me. And here we were. And I was like, this isn't joyful. Like I've just now I'm working behind the scenes on other people's deadlines. And that's when I decided, gosh, I'm kind of really good at this messaging and this marketing thing. Maybe I could be a business growth strategist and I could help people on a bit like more of the strategy and not the implementation of the copy. And that's really where the pivot happened about 2 years in.
I love that. I think you made a really important point for anyone who's listening to say you had created a job for yourself that still had deadlines. You were not really an entrepreneur. I think there's a big difference between creating a position that you're still in the thick of the day-to-day, the deadlines, the other people, which is much different than becoming a leader and creating a brand and what you say, living in your joy, right? And that there's a very big difference there. So, okay, so who was the first person you hired as you started to scale and build? Because now you're building a brand, you have this new thing, you know what you're going to do, you want more free time. Yeah. Who's the first person you hire?
So I always consider my business coach a hire. Yep. So that was in place. She recommended a virtual assistant that I brought on to free up some of the other stuff, and a website person, because I wasn't going to sit around and do my website. I can, but they're not pretty. So, yeah. And I just didn't bring me joy. So those were the first three. And really I brought those on in that probably the end of that first year. Like when I hit 70K, I was like, okay, I need a team. Like to me, that just made sense. And this is one of the things that I think is so frustrating for the people that I try and work with is, McDonald's doesn't open with no team, no furniture, no product, none of that. And I knew this early on, even though I didn't run a business before, but I was like, these like solopreneurs is great to a certain point, but not if you actually want to have a life and you want to have that impact that you want to have. Right. So just a little side note, because I love to use a hairdresser analogy, McDonald's, it doesn't matter.
Love it.
We've got to get the support early on to grow into what we envision.
Okay. What are some setbacks that you went through or you might have experienced along the way that you can share? Because I think we all grow from them. Even better if we can grow from someone else's setbacks, because we all have them.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of setbacks, right? I think it's just part of life, being a business
of growth.
owner.
Yep.
Yeah, of growth. One time we launched something like a new program, and the main VA, the VA who was in charge, missed the entire launch because she had the flu so bad she was in bed and didn't communicate. And the whole thing was a great big flop. It was horrible. I remember that very clearly because I was like, okay, the lesson here is make sure you have more than one person, like cross-train.
Ding, ding, ding. Everyone remember that. Cross-train everyone on your stage.
Exactly. So that was a big one.
Okay.
Another setback that, you know, I don't know how many people would experience this, but it was a really emotional setback. I had been working with clients. They all seemed relatively happy. They were posting on social media, and I had the notes. This is when I had a full one-on-one practice.
Okay.
And then one day, Camille, I got a call from the bank that said the three clients who had graduated, finished, were great. They somehow connected with each other. They all went to their banks in their cities around the U.S. on the same day. They planned this, and they did a chargeback of 15 grand, saying I did not deliver the services. So my bank account took a 45K hit within an hour. And the bank called me and they're like, what is happening? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. So that was hard because those ladies, I thought they were, they were so not who they presented themselves to be over that 6 months that I worked with them. And it was a friendship. I mean, now I know like they weren't friends, but at the time we had that friendship. And to this day, they have, I mean, this was years ago. For the next year, they tried to take down this brand. And I cannot for the life of me figure out what happened. The good news is I hired a legal strategist and lawyer who's still with me to this day. And she got all my money back. We had great notes. We had gone on social media, got all the things that they were happy, they were raving about. But there's still this piece for me that I've had to do a lot of forgiving around.
Right.
Because they won't talk to me. They were vindictive. They were like on this mission that I had no idea was going on. And that's hard. That's really hard because you think after a while you would know people if you work that closely with them, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So, that was a major setback, and it was such a setback. I remember, I mean, there was so much grief and depression and betrayal. Yeah. I remember for about a month laying on my sofa, looking at the ceiling. That was about what I could do in order to run a business. And I was so grateful to have a team that's like, we're going to get your money back. It's going to take 90 days. We're going to get the money back and we're going to move forward. If you've got to lay on the couch, just lay on the couch. We got this. And it was hard. That was so hard for me.
Wow. That's a huge setback. Thank you for sharing that. Big. Yeah. All right. So let's turn over that coin from the other side. One lever that pushed your company or your business forward, if you could narrow it down to like one great thing that just really propelled you.
Yeah. So in 2020, when the pandemic hit and everyone's freaking out, I went in for a hysterectomy. I came out, COVID hit the same weekend in New York City. They sent me home to recover. My kidneys went into failure. We didn't know it. And I almost died over that week until I could get back to a hospital. That was the moment that I was laying there. I've just written a book. This is the opening scene, if you will, that I was laying there and I was like, I think death might be better than this. Like, I have no idea where all these people and doctors, like, it was a frenzy and I felt really horrible. And, in that moment, I was like, God, I think death might be better. But there's like an angel that came and said, actually do more of what matters and take it to the people. And I remember laying there, Camille, and I was like, what a fucking message to give to me today. Like, I have no idea what do more of what matters and take it to the people means. And I'm practically dying and there's not enough staff here. And COVID is like hit New York City. And I just played that. It was like this message that I continue to play to this day. And I've sat with it and I thought about it. And I thought, what is do more of what matters and take it to the people? And it's joy. The answer finally came like a year later, which is why we've rebranded everything to Joyful Marketing, Joyful Selling, Joyful Business Revolution. Practical Joy is the book that's coming out. Yeah. And, you know, I say this because when I got out of the hospital and kind of get myself together again, and I was sitting with this, I thought, okay, I've been giving this gift of do more of what matters and take it to the people. And even though I don't know what it is, the thing that I'm going to ask myself this year is how can I double the revenue, triple the profit, and take more time off? And I use that question to guide me for the last 3 years. And we have had tremendous growth. And when I say time off, it is time off. Like I had 197 days off, and then I had 167 days off last year. This year, I've got a lot of days off. And it was just such a gift to like be in that place and get that message and ruminate on it, but also to come out and since then help people develop powerful questions that get them out of the day-to-day and get them thinking differently, which I really love to help people do.
What do you think it is that keeps people in that day-to-day and not be able to expand?
You know, the default answer that I would love to say starts with an M, mindset.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say ego, but
oh no, I think mindset, because it's like this word that's honestly really thrown around a lot without a lot of like support and definition of what that means. I think I was in robot mode as a teacher, going through the motions, doing what I thought I wanted to do or what I was supposed to do. Hurricane Sandy enlightened me. It was that pause, right? Then I went in for a hysterectomy, came out, almost died, laying there in that moment in a pause. Like it's the moment when you can get quiet and you can clear out all the day-to-day stuff that if you allow yourself, and I think you have good guidance, whether it's spiritual guidance or you've got a really great coach or strategist or community that's working with you that can ask you those powerful questions, maybe just one thing that will just open you up to expansion. That's what I think shifts the mindset. And that's what I think shifts like our habits and our patterns of behavior from doing what we've always been doing.
Yeah, I always say it's also hanging out with people that think like that. Yes. You know, it's so easy to get caught up with everyone else's stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
But if you hang out with people that are expanding, you naturally expand and look in a bigger vision. Yeah, as well. Yeah, and they hold space for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there's a purpose greater than yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, are you going to ask me to define it?
Yeah, that was kind of the point. Can you? I think we all are looking for something greater than ourselves. That's why we work, right? And you have created this joyful business revolution.
Yeah.
Is teaching people that, I think.
Yeah. I think teaching is a tool, but I think like the purpose that's bigger than me is that everywhere I show up, online, in person, doesn't matter. I leave it a more joyful space just because of my presence there. And that's really how I try and like run my team, run my business, come to a podcast. Like if my intention is really to elevate the consciousness of the planet through joy, I have got to leave every space that I touch more joyful than when I got there.
Beautiful. So what's next for you?
Oh, well, I'm going to go to Galapagos.
Oh, I'm a little jealous. I like asking people like, where are your retreats this year?
That is a personal retreat on a boat made for 10 people.
Oh my gosh.
With National Geographic. Like, I have waited so long to do this solo trip and I'm super excited. It's in November. So that's on my mind. I'm taking my mom. She had a stroke last September. We weren't sure we were going to be able to do the trip, but I'm taking my mom to Switzerland in July for a Swiss Italian train tour through the Alps, which is going to be super fun. For my business, we've just opened a new offer that's been so well received called the Content Personality Club. And, you know, this is what I think is our best way of being able to be that philanthropy forward brand, because it's very scalable. Yep. So I'm looking at things like, how do I increase partnerships? How maybe go down a route of a community project of some sort to increase awareness around not only the offer, but how to help people position their brands to be a philanthropy forward business model, which I'm super passionate about.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I have to remember, because I've got like a lot going on and I'm human and I can get caught in the numbers and caught in the weeds and caught in the things. So I've really been playing with the last week or so, the statement I start every day with and end every day with, which is, my business allows me to live my best life. And if I can remember that and not get caught up in the revenue and the profit and the numbers and the sales and how are we going to grow it and all of that, I'm just such a more pleasant person to be around. I mean, that's the human side, right? Like, yeah, I can get into that not so great headspace of, man, the sales are down, or what are we doing to generate the leads? Like all the things that we think about, right? As business owners.
Yeah. But it sounds like you've created measurables that aren't in numbers, right? Yes. So if you're spreading more joy,
yeah.
Right. And that's a goal, and that's higher than the number that's coming in on that bottom line, then you're doing it. Like, I think it's important to say that goals don't always have to be the amount of profit you're pulling, but it could be the lives that you touch.
Yeah. We call these soul goals.
I love that.
When we teach.
I love that. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. Shannon, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you and your joyful business revolution?
Yeah, they can. So there's a couple ways. joyfulbusinessrevolution.com is one way. We also have a beautiful Facebook community. That's where I house our community. It's the Joyful Business Revolution for coaches and consultants. So you can join us there. And we'd love to have you in our community. We love new people. We love helping people that are doing good things in the world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this interview process and a part of our weekly podcasts. You have been amazing sharing your story, and I really thank you for it.
Thank you, Camille.
You are welcome. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. For information about the Soul Professional Movement, you can go to soulprofessional.com. This podcast is sponsored by the Natural Life Business Partnership, a global organization for the soul-aligned professional and business incubator. If you find yourself in a higher vibration, having an alternative approach to business, and wanting to repair the world, check us out at our next meet and greet. You can go to soulprofessional.com to find that next date. Thanks, everyone.